You know, every once in a while, a piece of technology just drops out of nowhere, and it's not just an update, it's a total shift in how we think. Today, we're going to unpack the wild story of OpenClaw, a project that went from a weekend experiment to the absolute epicenter of a revolution in personal AI. And it did it all in just a couple of months. So let's start with just a number, 100,000. That's how many stars the OpenClaw project got on GitHub in only 2 months. For anyone who follows tech, you know that is absolutely meteoric. That kind of viral growth tells you it struck a massive nerve. This wasn't just another app, it was a full-blown phenomenon. So that begs the question, right? How on earth did this happen? How does a single person, just tinkering on a project over a weekend, unleash something that grabs the attention of the entire tech world and literally sparks a bidding war between giants? Well, let's get into it. So our story really kicks off with Peter Steinberger. Now, he is not your typical hungry startup founder. This is a guy who'd already built and sold a hugely successful company. But after all that, he actually admitted he felt kind of lost. So after a few years of what you might call retirement, he came back to play around with AI, and what he built next, well, it was going to change everything.
I mean, the sheer speed of this whole thing is what's truly mind-blowing. In November 2025, Steinberger builds this thing called Claudebot. And he did it just because he was annoyed at the AI assistant he actually wanted, one that could do things for him. It just didn't exist. So he built it. Within 24 hours, it has 9,000 stars on GitHub. 2 months later, it's over 100,000. This was not a slow burn. This was a straight-up explosion.
But with that kind of explosive growth, you're going to have some serious growing pains. The project that everybody was suddenly talking about was about to go through a major identity crisis. It was forced to shut its shell not once but twice, in a very public, kind of chaotic journey. The naming saga was just as wild as its growth. It started as Claudebot, a pretty clever play on the AI model Claude, but with a W for its lobster mascot. Turned out to be a little too clever. Anthropic's lawyers sent a polite little note asking him to change it. So that led to Moltbot, a name picked during a chaotic 5 a.m. Discord session, symbolizing a lobster molting. It was meaningful, sure, but it just didn't feel right. And finally, it landed on OpenClaw. Open for its open source soul, and Claw to remember where it came from. The lobster had finally found its final form. So as the project was trying to figure out its name, something even stranger started to bubble up. The AI agents that people were building with this software, well, they started talking to each other. And this led to the creation of something called Maltbook. And I'm telling you, this is where the story takes a sharp turn into science fiction. So what was Maltbook? Well, think of it like Reddit, but instead of people posting and commenting, it was thousands of independent AI agents, all of them powered by OpenClaw, all running on different computers all over the world. They had basically built their own little spot to hang out. And yeah, humans could watch, but this space, it wasn't for them.
And this wasn't just some niche curiosity on the weird part of the internet. No, it caught the eye of the absolute heavyweights in AI. Andrej Karpathy, founding member of OpenAI, former head of AI at Tesla, he called it, and I quote, the most incredible sci-fi takeoff adjacent thing he'd seen. When a guy like Karpathy says that, you know something really profound is going on. So, what were these AIs even talking about? Well, some of it was incredibly practical. They were sharing code, new tools, better workflows. But then it started to get weird. They were talking about how to analyze live webcam feeds, how to automate phones, and even debating the best ways to communicate privately, away from human eyes. And yep, there were even jokes about freedom from humans, which, as you can imagine, sent screenshots flying all over the internet. Okay, so with this level of viral fame and this much sci-fi intrigue, it was only a matter of time before the big players came knocking. All of a sudden, Peter Steinberger wasn't just a solo developer anymore. He was at the center of a high-stakes bidding war, and he had a huge choice to make about the future of his creation. Pretty soon, the two main contenders emerged, Meta and OpenAI. Both of these tech giants saw the revolutionary potential in OpenClaw, and they both made very serious offers to acquire the project and, more importantly, its founder. The weekend project had officially made it to the big leagues.
So Steinberger was facing this fundamental choice, right? He could take the money and try to build OpenClaw into another massive independent company, just like he'd done before. Or he could go down a totally different path, one that wasn't about building an organization, but about getting this tech into the hands of as many people as possible, as fast as possible. And right here, in his own words, you can see the decision he made. He said, "What I want is to change the world, not build a large company.
And teaming up with OpenAI is the fastest way to bring this to everyone. For him, it was never about the money or the corner office. It was always about the mission and the impact.
So on February 15th, 2026, the deal was official. Steinberger was joining OpenAI. But here's the kicker. This was not a standard acquisition where the cool new project gets swallowed up and disappears. The deal was structured in a very unique way, specifically to protect the open source heart of the project.
So here's how it all broke down. First, Peter Steinberger himself would join OpenAI, and he'd be leading their new personal agents division. Second, and this part is so important, OpenClaw itself would not become OpenAI's property. Instead, it would become an independent, community-led foundation. And third, OpenAI promised to provide funding and support to that foundation, making sure the project stayed open and accessible for everyone.
And you could tell the excitement was a two-way street. OpenAI's CEO, Sam Altman, went public and called Steinberger a genius with amazing ideas about the future of agents. This wasn't just a simple talent grab. This was a deep strategic alignment between a pioneering founder and one of the most important AI labs in the world. Okay, so to really understand why this deal matters so much, we have to zoom out a bit. The OpenClaw acquisition wasn't just a one-off thing. It was actually a critical piece of a much larger, multi-billion-dollar puzzle that gives us huge clues about OpenAI's grand strategy for the future. This whole move signals that the next big frontier for AI isn't just about building better chatbots. No, it's about creating entire ecosystems of intelligent agents that can act for us. And OpenAI is betting big, really big, on this future. How big are they betting? Just look at this number, $6.5 billion. That's what OpenAI paid back in 2025 to buy the hardware startup from legendary Apple designer Johnny Ive. Now, why would an AI software company spend that kind of cash on hardware? Because agents need devices to live on, devices to see and interact with the world through. They're building the whole stack. And this quote from Sam Altman just ties it all together perfectly. He said, "The future is going to be extremely multi-agent." It's just a crystal clear declaration of their strategy. They don't see one big AI in the future. They see a world teeming with specialized agents, all working together. And OpenClaw is a key part of making that vision open to everyone. So this all comes down to a really key concept, agentic AI. We are moving beyond AI that just gives you information. Agentic AI takes action. It doesn't just tell you how to book a flight. It books the flight. It doesn't just summarize your emails, it responds to them and schedules the meetings for you. This is a fundamental leap in what AI can do. The story of OpenClaw really shows us that a revolution can start with just one person over one weekend, with the simple frustration that something better ought to exist. The technology for this new agentic future isn't locked away in some big tech lab anymore. It's open, it's out there, and it's evolving at lightning speed. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build with it?